Real quick. Who is afraid of standing up in front of a group of people and speaking? Like real afraid. And who is so afraid of it but actually wants to come up here and speak for 30 seconds? Who wants to conquer that? You didn't have your hand up as being afraid. I feel like you love it. I feel like you want to be up here. Are you really afraid to come up here? I don't think he is. Are you afraid for real? Does it make you nervous to come up here? You got 30 seconds. Let's go. You got 30 seconds. Trayvon? Yeah. Use the stairs. You're not afraid of. All right. Look out there. Stand right here. No, you can't turn around that way. Look out. Make eye contact. This is the only thing I'm good at. Put your arm down. Take him in. Ready? Don't move. Own it. Look at him. Ready? Here we go. What's your favorite thing to eat? It can be simple, like a bowl of cereal. And look at him.
Well, since I'm from Chicago, it's chicken, basically.
How do you make it? Go ahead.
So first you got to get the chicken. So that's from the market. That's basic. Then you got to season it up. So get your little seasoning, salt, pepper, whatever you put up on it. I don't know how people make this, but I like to put flour on mine and just throw it in the grease and just make it like that. So it's and then just wait 5 minutes. That's it.
Done. Give it up for Trayvon. Just crush the fear. Own it. Use the stairs, Trayvon. Use the stairs. All right. That was awesome. Some people's fear is standing up in front of people. This is the place I'm unfortunately most comfortable, but I got to move it along. All right. Our next speaker is a person. I was a fan of her work, and I wanted to have her on my radio show. And the moment we started talking, I realized I liked this woman. I wanted to talk to her more. I wanted to get to meet her. I wanted to hear more about what she has to offer the world. And she's got so much. She's one of the most intelligent, inspiring, cool women I've ever met in my life. And I know I'm raising expectations, but you're all going to feel it when I feel it. And she is going to teach us something very, very important. Manoush Zomorodi, everybody. Come on. You need this?
Hey, everybody. So I don't know if you know the secret, and you will know this secret, that when you come to Aspen to be on a panel, you're not just on one. They make you go on 5. If you're coming for the Aspen Ideas Festival to speak, you have to be on 5 panels, right? Which is great. And I totally haven't been nervous until now. I have to say, you are the audience that I am most worried about impressing. There are all these secretaries of such and such out there, but this idea that I want to talk to you about today is most important for you. So I host a podcast. Any podcast listeners out there? Okay, good. I was going to make you teach the people at your table how to listen to podcasts. That's for next year. Meanwhile, though, how many of you have your phone near you on your table, maybe even in your hand? Raise your hand if yeah. Okay, that's totally normal. It's cool, no judgment. How many of you hate being bored? Yeah, right? The word alone kind of sucks. But guess what? I have 10 minutes to show you why being bored is actually amazing. Okay, here I go. So first I want to tell you a little bit about me. I'm a mom. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. My kid broke his wrist last night, so I have to leave and go home early tomorrow. But anyway, that's a side thing. I live in Brooklyn. I know there's a Brooklynite over there. Another Brooklyn. All right, yes, love Brooklyn. And I have my dream job. I host this podcast called Note to Self. It's about how we get through the digital world. Everything seems to be going faster, and people are trying to figure it all out. That's what we talk about on my show. So I want to tell you a little story, though, that I'm hoping will inspire you, and it's about your brain, and it's about creativity. But I want to tell you first what happened to me. Okay, so a couple years ago, I sat down to brainstorm some ideas for my show, and I totally came up blank. It wasn't like writer's block where you're like, oh, I just can't think of something. It was like there was nothing there. And I started to think back, and I was like, when have I had my best ideas in the past? And it was such a cliche. It was like in the shower, when I was staring out the window, when we were driving somewhere. Basically, like when I was bored. And then I started to realize, like, oh my God, I don't think I've been bored since 2008 when I first got an iPhone. That's crazy. And fun fact, it's the iPhone's birthday this week. It's turning 10, which is insane. So maybe some of you don't even know what that's like not to have a phone. And so I started to realize that instead of being bored, I was always doing this, and maybe you can relate, right? And then I started to think, well, could there be consequences to never getting bored? Like, if I never let my mind sort of wander, could I be missing stuff? And the answer, as I sort of talked to neuroscientists and cognitive psychologists, was actually yes, because it turns out that when we get bored, we ignite this network in our brain, and it's called the default mode. When we go into the default mode, you could be like walking down the street or folding laundry. It's like when you're on autopilot, but your brain just sort of goes, and you're not really conscious of where it's going. So this is when we come up with our most original ideas. It's when we do problem solving. It's when we do something called autobiographical planning. This is where we look back at our lives and we figure out kind of like what's happened to me, why did that happen, what do I want to happen going forward? And it's kind of fascinating to me. I want to play you a clip of boredom researcher, Dr. Sandy Mann.
Once you start daydreaming and allow your mind to really wander, you start thinking a little bit beyond the conscious, a little bit into the subconscious, which allows sort of different connections to take place. It's really awesome, actually.
Yeah, totally awesome. So I started to think like, well, what if we put our phones down? Like, what if we activated our default mode more often? Could we jumpstart our creativity if we got bored? What if we embrace this feeling that we're running away from all the time? Could we help ourselves have bigger ideas, to think bigger? Could we maybe even get more brilliant? And so I asked my audience if they would do an experiment with me. And I called it Bored and Brilliant, the Art of Spacing Out. And what we did was we asked my listeners, would you sign up for a week of experiments? Every morning you're gonna get a newsletter, an email newsletter, and a mini podcast to listen to that sort of explains what's going on in your brain, what's going on in your phone, and then we ask you to do something a little bit different. And, I kind of thought like maybe a couple hundred people would sign up to do this, but 20,000 people signed up. And the reasons that they gave that they wanted to do it was because they wanted to feel more productive, they felt addicted to their technology, and they were worried actually about their health, which I found really interesting. And they were also worried that their relationship with their phone had gotten kind of codependent.
The relationship between a baby and its teddy bear, or a baby and its Banky, or a baby that wants its mother's cradle when it's done with being held by a stranger. That's the relationship between me and my phone.
I think of my phone like a power tool. Extremely useful, but dangerous if I'm not handling it properly. If I don't pay close attention, I'll suddenly realize that I've lost an hour of time doing something totally mindless.
Okay, does that ring true for any of you here? Okay, but to see if we could change this relationship, we needed some baseline data, because that's what we do these days, right? So we partnered with these apps to measure how many minutes a day are you actually on your phone, and how many pickups do you have? You know the pickup where you're just like, did I get something? Did I get something? Did I get something? Right. Okay, so you think you know how often you do that? I was picking up my phone 120 times a day. What the hell was I even looking for? I have no idea. So people downloaded these apps, and I mean, also, like, it's kind of ironic that we ask people to download apps when we're asking them to maybe spend less time on their phones, but I feel like you have to meet people where they are, kind of, you know what I mean? Okay, so before challenge week, here's what we were averaging. Just over 2 hours a day on our phones. That doesn't include all other screen time, right? And we were checking our phones around 60 times, which is actually on the low side. But if you think about it, this is an audience that was self-selecting, right? They wanted to make a change. And then day one, we started with our first challenge. So a lot of families decided to do it together. So on day one, we asked people to keep their phone in their pocket or in their bag, like not in front of them or in their hand. Because like I walk down the street kind of gripping my phone is what I realized. Like I could have a call at any moment or I could tweet at any time. Watch out, right? Okay, no, put your phone away. It's all gonna be okay. And if you think it's easy, here is listener, let me go back. I want you to hear from listener Amanda Itzko.
I have to share that I am absolutely itching. I feel a little bit crazy because I have noticed that I pick up my phone when I'm just walking from one room to another, getting on the elevator, and even in the car.
Yeah, so dangerous behavior, also like a lot of bathroom use is what we learned, which was also kind of gross. So anyway, day 3, people said that was the hardest. On day 3, we asked people to remove one app. You know, that one app that just sucks you in. Okay, so mine was 2 Dots. Are there any 2 Dots players in here? Oh, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's insane. So people deleted Angry Birds, Instagram, Twitter, Candy Crush, Snapchat. Which one? Yes, if that's your jam, gone for one day. That's it. And we found actually that people got really, really into it.
This is Liam in Los Angeles, and I deleted Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Snapchat, and Vine from my phone in one fell swoop. And it was kind of an embarrassingly emotional experience at first. It felt weirdly lonely to look at that lock screen with no new notifications on it, but I really like deciding for myself when to think about or access my social networks, not giving my phone the power to decide that for me. So thank you.
Deleting the Twitter app was very sad, and I feel I maybe over the last year when I've been on Twitter have developed an addiction to it, and this Bored and Brilliant challenge has really made me realize it. After a brief period of really horrible withdrawal feeling like lack of caffeine headache, I now feel lovely, had a lovely dinner with my family, and I hope to continue this structured use of these powerful tools.
I don't have that guilty gut feeling I'll have when I know I'm wasting time on my phone. Maybe I'll have to start giving myself little challenges and reminders like this every morning.
Okay, so I was super pumped. I was like, 20,000 people are deleting apps. They are like reconnecting with their brains. They're gonna be cutting off so much time from their apps. The numbers are gonna be unbelievable, right? Okay, but then the numbers came in. The average decrease was 6 fewer minutes of phone time. Parents did a little better, average of 16 minutes. Gamers, 20 fewer minutes every day. Like whoop-de-doo, right? I was like, okay, failure. And so I went back to the neuroscientists and the cognitive psychologists, and I was feeling kind of low, and they laughed their heads off at me. They were like, do you know how ambitious your project was? You were trying to change people's behavior in 5 days. You're insane. Really, like, you gotta think about this project. It was baby steps. You are just starting here. Because I know, that poor baby, right? Because more important than the minutes were I know, oh, I can't do it. Okay, more important than the minutes were people's stories. They felt empowered. They felt like their phones had been turned back into tools rather than taskmasters. I feel like I'm becoming myself again for the first time in several years. And we saw it go to other behavior. I pick up my guitars more. I go to bed earlier. I sleep better. I am happier. My friends can't believe I don't have Facebook on my phone anymore. I can't believe I did it for so long. One guy wrote me and he said, I feel like I am waking up from a mental hibernation. So I have to say though, for me, the most gratifying were the stories that I got from teachers and their students, because we had classrooms across the country do the project, the Bored and Brilliant project, together. And I want to play you one clip from this high school teacher in Florida, Joel Adams.
So what did you observe after they did it? Like, what did you see? Was there like, I don't know, twitching?
Not twitching, more eye contact actually. One of the things that we're in a pretty tech-saturated classroom, so they're always in front of screens of some sort. And I think part of what this project actually also did was try to highlight for them that from the moment they wake up till they fall asleep, there are always screens in front of them, whether it's their mobile screen, a screen in a classroom, a desktop, or a projection screen. And so to actually have them delete an app or to begin to put the phone away from their body was another good one. You saw a lot more of their eyes. They were looking at each other. And even though they sit right next to each other every day, it was a different experience, I think, for them.
So I had teachers tell me that schoolwork was easier for them. Yeah, because if you're not doing Snapchat while you're doing your homework, it's gonna be easier. I also had a lot of people tell me that they had never experienced this human sensation before, which was really kind of fascinating to me. And as I was talking to more researchers, there's researchers at USC who are doing this really interesting study where they're following teenagers in LA to see, what happens if you are on social media when you're doing homework or when you're hanging out with your friends, and measuring, are there longer term effects? And some of those students had less empathy and fewer ideas about how to solve big problems in their neighborhoods like violence or environmental issues. So this makes sense because, as I learned, when people let their minds wander, those people are better at delaying gratification and they have higher levels of attention control. So, to me, this is kind of like key stuff, right? We need your generation to be able to focus on some really huge issues: economic disparity, racial inequality, climate change. So I think that's the bad news, all those things that we need to solve. But the good news is 20,000 people did it. Every state in America, a dozen countries, 90% did cut down on some time, but 70% said that they just had more time to think. And I think that is not to be sneezed at in our busy, busy world. So today, I think I want to just say that like a little neuroscience and a little personal data can give you permission to put down your phone, because actually when you put it down and you just like sit on the subway, in my case, and space out, which I never do, that's actually really, really good for us. We can be our most creative, our most productive selves. And I think the next time, you sort of mindlessly look at your phone, like ask yourself, what am I looking for? Like if it's to, no, not so fast. What am I looking for? If it is to, check email, or if it's to talk to your friend, that's totally cool, but then do it and be done, right? Give yourself permission to just space out and see what kind of creative ideas start to spark. So I know that Pete asked, what are you passionate about? I think that this is the next chapter in digital literacy, this combination of data science, neuroscience, and looking at the design of our technology. And so this is my new baby that's coming out in the fall, and I'm really hoping to spread the message. And I really want to thank you for having me. You can find me in these places. I really want to hear from you, whether this resonates with you, whether you think it's a total load of bullshit. I definitely want to hear that too. Like I really want to, so I think I have a few minutes to sort of take questions or comments too. I'd love to hear comments. I think, is there a mic going around? Great, right up here in the front. I think that, are you guys taping this? Is that why we need the mic? Okay, so yeah. For posterity's sake, hold your question, I know.
Children in the future.
Yeah.
What is dead time on the phone? What do you mean by time spent not doing anything? Are you talking about like that reflexive phones in my hands every so often I check? Because at the same time, for our generation, phones connect, like it's like AOL chat for the generation right before us.
Oh, God.
It connects throughout the world. You interact, you use it as a tool for day-to-day tasks. So many jobs nowadays have me signing up for an app so they know exactly when my schedules are. Where is the delineation within your narrative between useful time and non-useful time?
Yeah, so I think the beauty of this is only you can really decide what is useful or not useful, but asking yourself the question is extremely important. And I think all of us know when we have that icky feeling, or at least I sure do, when I'm like, just get off your phone, you know? Or for me, it was like I'd put my kids to bed and then I'd be jonesing for my 2 dots. Whereas like, okay, how about just sitting there on the carpet and like listening to their little bodies breathing and like appreciating my life instead of like connecting dots into squares that was making me more anxious and stopping me from sleeping. Do you know what I mean? So that was my point. Yours could be completely different. Is there something that's coming to mind maybe? Chris?
Specifically for me, I'm someone with ADHD, so this kind of impulsive behavior is wired into my brain. And sometimes hearing narratives like yours, there's pushback. There's like, well, that's great for you, but my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Can everybody hear him? So Chris is saying that he has ADHD, and so for him, he feels that his mind is wired differently. And so I think, sorry, continue.
So hearing that kind of pushback, hearing that kind of narrative sometimes is frustrating, but at the same time, it's hearing you just say that, deciding, finding out, and taking that personal agency is an important part of your narrative that I'd like to hear more.
Totally, yes. He was saying personal agency, deciding for yourself. And I think, for me, it was like the 16-year-olds who were doing the project, like what they decided was good for them was not going to be the same as my 73-year-old mom, right? Like her relationship to technology is completely different, but she knows when she goes into the zombie mode, just like anybody else goes into zombie mode. So I think you're absolutely right, personal agency. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Right here with the pink hat? And then should we go to the pink shirt in the front? After that? Yeah. Okay.
Well, hi, I'm Lily. And first of all, I think it's awesome that you do podcasting because I work in college radio in the Valley.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
my question, being somebody that's in media, do you think it's harder? And what can we do as people in media to kind of make that balance easier? Because sometimes I feel like I'm more connected to it because, I'm in digital media.
Right. Yeah, I think that I struggle with that too. I mean, even being here this week, I'm like, I got to post on Instagram. Oh, wait, no. How about you just think about what you just listened to for an hour? So I think, that's the finding the balance, right? And so I've sort of said to myself, okay, I'll post like a couple times a day and then leave it. That's it. Now you actually, maybe for me, it's about setting myself very specific assignments. That works for me. Like 3 things that I got out of this talk. Like I am a person who does very well with structure and deadlines. I know that about myself. And so I give myself little assignments and that really does work for me. Or other times I'll be like, the other thing I'm trying to do is like I now run with nothing, just running. Like just listening to myself, and I hate it the first 10 minutes, and then you pass into this weird, like then your brain just kind of goes. And I've gotten some really awesome ideas just from jogging. So so I think it's really up to you. It is about you and what works for you. But trying different things to figure out. If everyone's on Snapchat, well, cool, do Snapchat, but do it in a way that works for you. We have one more question here, and I think that's it. The last one.
Good afternoon. My name is Mariah.
Hi.
And my question is, after was your first challenge and receiving like such low data back, what motivated you to keep on going with your idea?
With the thing?
Yes.
That's a good question. I still struggle with this, and I think because I still have such a hard time with my phone that I'm like, oh, well, what I've realized is like I am not a special snowflake. When I am struggling with something, chances are at least 20,000 other people are also struggling with it. And like the community that we've kind of gotten together on the podcast has meant so much to me, and people sharing their ideas and supporting each other and finding solutions to what works for them. It's so gratifying. I mean, like the emails that I get from people who are like, you know what, you sparked a conversation in my family that we have never had before. That is why I want to keep doing this show and this job and this book and talking to people like you. So I got it pretty good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great conference.